It was a rainy Saturday evening, the kind of night that makes every street lamp glow golden, reflecting off puddles like tiny, broken suns. I had arrived at the restaurant early, excited to see him. My boyfriend had promised a special dinner, something different, something intimate, and I was looking forward to it. I had spent the afternoon picking out the perfect dress, the one that hugged my figure just right, paired with shoes I knew would make him notice me. I found a corner table by the window, the rain tapping softly against the glass. I tucked my hair behind my ear and checked my phone, waiting for the text that would tell me he was near. But as the minutes ticked by, the excitement began to fizzle into unease. He was late. And that's when I first noticed her. She was a waitress, bustling gracefully between tables, her movements effortless and confident. There was something about the way she smiled at customers, the way her eyes seemed to linger just a little longer on small, unnoticed details. She had an energy that was impossible to ignore, a combination of warmth and quiet strength. She approached my table with a menu, and when she looked up and caught my gaze, I felt a strange, unexpected jolt. I tried to focus on him, my boyfriend, but with every glance she threw in my direction, I found myself distracted. It wasn't just her beauty. It was her presence. She laughed at a customer's joke, her laugh low and melodic, like music I hadn't realized I'd been craving. She moved like she owned the room, yet there was a gentleness that made people trust her instantly. As I sat there, stirring my glass absent-mindedly, I realized I was waiting for him, but my attention was elsewhere. I told myself it was temporary, a fleeting attraction, a curiosity sparked by circumstance. Yet, deep down, I couldn't ignore the feeling growing stronger with every passing second. She had captured my attention completely. And then, just when I thought I could contain it, she approached me again. She leaned slightly over the table, her voice soft but clear. "Would you like to start with something to drink while you wait?" she asked, holding the menu with a casual elegance. I stammered, trying to focus, but all I could do was nod. Her smile deepened, warm and effortless, and something inside me skipped a beat. As I watched her walk away, I felt guilty. I was here for my boyfriend, after all. Yet, the way she moved, the way she carried herself, it was intoxicating. I tried to push the thoughts away, tried to convince myself it was harmless curiosity. But when she returned with my drink, there was a spark in her eyes that made my heart thud harder than it had in years. We started talking, at first just small things, my drink, the weather, a comment about how busy the restaurant was that night. But soon, the conversation flowed naturally. She had this uncanny ability to listen, really listen, as if every word mattered. Her laughter wasn't just sound, it was an invitation, a pull that I couldn't resist. I found myself forgetting about my boyfriend entirely, caught in a current I hadn't expected. She leaned on the counter near my table, casually brushing a strand of hair from her face, and I realized I was staring. Not in a rude way, I told myself, but in awe. There was something real about her, something I hadn't felt in a long time, maybe ever. And then she did something that made my chest tighten. She asked me about my day, genuinely curious, and listened as I spoke about little things I didn't even realize mattered to me. In those moments, I forgot the hours spent waiting for someone else, the plans I had made, the life I thought I had mapped out. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt seen. By the time my boyfriend finally arrived, the air between us had already shifted. He greeted me with his usual charm, but my mind wasn't on him anymore. My heart, confused, exhilarated, alive, was elsewhere. And when I glanced back, she caught my eye once more, a knowing smile playing on her lips. That smile told me everything I needed to know, something had changed, and it wasn't going back. My boyfriend slid into the seat across from me, smiling like nothing had changed. He was charming, attentive, the person I thought I wanted to impress tonight. But as he chatted, I felt a distance growing between us, an invisible wall that I couldn't ignore. My thoughts kept drifting back to her, to the waitress who had unknowingly stolen my focus and stirred something I hadn't expected. Every time she passed by, I felt a rush, a flutter in my chest, a warmth spreading through me. I caught her watching me out of the corner of her eye, subtle but unmistakable. There was a lightness in her presence, a kind of effortless joy that made the room feel different, brighter. I realized something I couldn't deny. I was no longer waiting for him. I was waiting for her. I tried to tell myself it was temporary, a silly infatuation sparked by proximity and charm. But the truth was undeniable. Every glance she gave, every smile, every small gesture, the way she remembered my drink, the way she laughed at my jokes, was pulling me closer. And with each passing minute, I felt the weight of my choice pressing down on me. I watched my boyfriend as he reached for my hand. The gesture, meant to feel intimate, felt foreign now. I couldn't respond the way I used to. My heart wasn't with him. My heart was somewhere else entirely, somewhere it had only just realized it belonged. When she came by again, she lingered just a moment too long, asking if everything was all right. I wanted to say yes, but my voice caught. I realized I needed to make a decision, something I hadn't considered possible before tonight. My life, my feelings, everything was shifting under my feet, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. That's when I understood, I had fallen for her. Not out of convenience, not out of rebellion, but because she had touched something inside me that I didn't even know existed. And in that realization, a mix of fear and excitement surged through me. Because choosing her would mean changing everything I thought I knew about myself, and about love. I excused myself from the table under the pretense of using the restroom, but really, I needed a moment to breathe, to think, to decide. My mind was a whirlwind of guilt, desire, confusion, and excitement. I had never imagined myself in this situation, torn between someone I thought I loved and someone I realized I couldn't stop thinking about. As I stepped into the hallway, I leaned against the wall and closed my eyes. Every scenario played out in my head, telling him the truth, pretending nothing had changed, running away with this impossible, intoxicating feeling. The sound of laughter and clinking glasses drifted from the main dining area, but all I could hear was her voice, her laugh, the soft way she said my name when she came over earlier. I returned to the table, my decision made. My boyfriend looked at me expectantly, oblivious to the storm inside me. I smiled politely, but it didn't reach my eyes. I knew I couldn't keep pretending. My heart was no longer his, and I owed it to myself, and to her, to be honest. When she came by with our plates, I couldn't help the way my eyes followed her. There was a quiet moment, a fleeting glance, but it was enough. I caught her gaze, and she understood. No words were needed. There was a connection there, unspoken but undeniable, that made my pulse race. I took a deep breath and stood up, gently placing my hand over my boyfriend's. I need to be honest, I said softly, almost whispering, I can't do this. His smile faltered, confusion and hurt mixing across his face. I didn't have the words to explain fully, and perhaps I didn't need to. My heart was speaking louder than any explanation ever could. Turning toward her, I felt a mixture of fear and exhilaration. Would she feel the same? Had I misread everything? But when our eyes met, there was a warmth, a spark, a silent invitation. Everything else, the rain, the restaurant, my past feelings, faded into the background. There was only this moment, only this connection, only her. And in that instant, I knew. I had made my choice. She approached me cautiously, as if she too felt the weight of the moment. Her eyes searched mine, soft and curious, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. For a heartbeat, the restaurant around us disappeared, the clatter of dishes, the chatter of diners, even the rain outside, all faded into silence. It was just the two of us, standing on the edge of something that felt impossibly real. I wasn't sure if you'd feel the same, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I shook my head, stepping closer, the nervous excitement building in my chest. I do, I replied, my own voice trembling with truth. I've never felt this before, with anyone. Her smile was tentative at first, then grew, bright and genuine, like sunlight breaking through clouds. She reached out, brushing a strand of hair from my face with the gentlest touch, and I felt as if the world itself had shifted beneath my feet. There was no rush, no pressure. Just this moment, perfect in its simplicity, electric in its intensity. We moved to a quiet corner, away from the tables, where the soft hum of the restaurant was more of a background melody than a distraction. She laughed softly at something I said, a musical sound that made my heart ache in a way I didn't expect. The way she listened, really listened, made me feel seen, understood, and accepted. Every word, every glance, every touch carried meaning. For the first time that evening, I allowed myself to stop overthinking. I didn't think about guilt, past expectations, or what this meant for anyone else. I focused entirely on her, the curve of her smile, the warmth of her hand, the subtle way her eyes lit up when she talked about something she loved. And in that shared silence, that first brush of hands, I knew something had ignited, a connection that went beyond attraction, beyond infatuation. It was recognition, longing, a quiet promise of something deeper. The world was suddenly more vivid, more alive, more possible. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. We stayed in that quiet corner for what felt like hours, though only minutes had passed. The world outside, the rain, the noise, even the presence of my boyfriend, mattered less and less with every shared glance, every laugh, every subtle brush of our hands. I realized then that what I felt for her was undeniable, unstoppable, and real in a way I hadn't known I was capable of feeling. She leaned closer, her eyes searching mine, and I felt a courage rising from somewhere deep within. I've been wanting to tell you, she murmured, that I feel something, for you. Something more than just curiosity. Her words made my heart skip, and I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes. I feel the same, I whispered, barely able to form the sentence. More than I expected, more than I thought I could. It was a moment of clarity, a moment of truth. Everything else, the plans, the expectations, the comfort of the familiar, paled in comparison to this raw, electric feeling between us. I reached for her hand, holding it tightly, as if to anchor myself in the reality of what we were sharing. She smiled, a mix of relief, joy, and something I could only describe as wonder, and I realized this was it. This was where I belonged. I turned briefly to my boyfriend, who had been waiting patiently, and my heart ached with guilt. But I couldn't lie to myself anymore. I had chosen my heart. I had chosen her. That choice was terrifying and exhilarating all at once, but it was mine, and it felt like the only right decision I could have made. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of whispered conversation, shared laughter, and lingering touches. The connection that had sparked in passing now blossomed into something real, something that felt unshakable. For the first time in my life, I was experiencing a love that was entirely mine, unbound by expectations or fear. As the rain continued to fall outside, I realized that some moments, some people, change everything. And tonight, I had discovered a truth I couldn't ignore. Sometimes, love finds you where you least expect it, and when it does, you follow it, no matter how impossible it seems. I was waiting for someone else, and yet, in the end, I found her.